I believe we can start now. Yeah, so wherever you are, again, greetings to all of you. And so far, we've received some attendees from Nepal, Australia, South Africa, Denmark, Nigeria, Tunisia, the USA, India, Nairobi, Ghana, Kenya. Wherever you are joining us from, you are warmly welcome. And we believe that this particular bootcamp session training program will be a one that is worthwhile in attending, and also the information that you take from this will be something you can apply in both your professional and then daily lives as well. So very quickly, I will just do a brief introduction of Ridi Duta, who will be giving us an overview of what this session is about. Just a bio of Ridi. Ridi has a strong background in climate action, policy, and communication. So she has spent the past 4 years at the United Nations Climate Change Secretariat, working at the heart of multilateral climate negotiations and international cooperation. She has also led high-impact initiatives such as the capacity building hubs at COP26, COP27, and COP28, and most recently, the 2.5 million euros Youth for Capacity program, which was launched in partnership with the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security. Within the intergovernmental process, she has supported negotiations under the capacity building agenda and contributed to the work of the Paris Committee on Capacity Building, a constituted body under both the Convention and the Paris Agreement. So over this period, she has engaged more than 400 organizations and 14,000 stakeholders in advancing climate capacity building. This has included designing and implementing large-scale events, cultivating cross-sector partnerships, and developing strategic policy recommendations. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to invite Ridi Duta to give us an overview of today's bootcamp session. Ridi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Paul, and welcome everyone. First of all, thank you, Paul, for that wonderful introduction. It's sometimes a nice chance to take a look back in what I've done over the last 4 years at the Secretariat. But yeah, as Paul mentioned, my name is Riddhi, and I've been supporting the work of the UN Climate Change Secretariat over the last 4 years, doing a lot of stakeholder engagement in different aspects, but most recently working with a lot of young people, much like yourselves that have joined this fantastic session that we are very privileged and happy to be collaborating on Gaia with. So before we get right into the session, and I'm sure everyone is really eager to get into learning and building their capacities, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce why we're here today and how we're here today. So as mentioned, Youth for Capacity is a program that we at the UN Climate Change Secretariat, together with the Italian Ministry of the Environment, set up together about 3 years ago, with the hope that essentially to invest and build young people's capacities in how they can work with the process, and also just climate action as a broad concept. May that be through entrepreneurship, or may that be through them engaging in policy spaces. So we work with capacity building in terms of climate action of all sorts, forms, and types. One of the things that we heard a lot through our consultations with young people, through Youngo and all of the other organizations that we work with, is really having dedicated spaces for capacity building and opportunities to engage with peers, opportunities to engage with mentors. So together with our sibling initiative, which is Youth for Climate, that is run by the UN Development Program, together, we decided to take on the Climate Catalyst Mentorship Program. It's our second year of doing this, and a very successful year it's turning out to be. We're at our second bootcamp right now, but essentially, we wanted to get more up close and more direct targeted capacity building on topics that are important to young people. So we have three different boot camps this year. So the first one that we had was on entertainment and culture-based climate solutions, which took place in May. We've completed that with the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion. If you have attended it, please do drop it in the chat. We would love to hear if some of you are, this is your second boot camp that you're joining, or the first one, or this is the first time you're learning about Youth for Capacity. drop that in the chat. We would love to hear from you. But here we are in July with our second bootcamp, funding climate projects from vision to action with Gaio. And then in September, we would have our final bootcamp, which is on green skills for a green future. While these are the boot camps, we also have participant to participants or peer to peer channels on the Youth for Climate platform, where we have a Climate Catalyst mentorship program dashboard, where we kind of have the space to sort of discuss all of the things that we've learned at one session and take them forward, and virtual climate cafes as well, where you take all the lessons from the different boot camps that you learn in the different sessions, take them one step forward. That being said, just quick information for everyone. Attendance is tracked. We highly encourage you to attend the full duration of the session using your registered name, the same that you use to register on Zoom. Certificates would be given to all participants that attend all bootcamp sessions in full, and a digital certificate would be sent on completion of the bootcamp and the whole mentorship program as well. If you have any issues accessing the platform or the dashboard, you can write to us on youthforcapacity@unfccc.int for any support. And then we go, the slide needs to move forward. There we go. So I know Gaia is going to go more into detail of what the sessions will look like. So I'm going to skip that. There are 3 workshops that we would have every Tuesday for the next 3 weeks, and discussions that follow right after each of the sessions on the platform. But besides that, I also wanted to mention that on August 1st, we would have the Climate Cafe, which will be in English, French, and Spanish, where all of the lessons and everything that you learned at the bootcamp can be discussed, and you have more one-on-one time with each other to take that forward. So I would highly recommend that you join us that as well. But for the workshops and the overall what the bootcamp is going to look like, I'm going to defer to Gaia to continue on from there. But a final slide from my end on, here's a QR code. If you haven't joined the channel already, on the dashboard, we have a dedicated channel for this particular bootcamp. All the discussions will be hosted over there. So it's a great place to network with other participants, network with the organizers, network with organizations, continue on and engage with the discussions, and also a great repository of resources and opportunities that participants and organizers share there as well. With that, that's it for me for now. I will pass it back to Gaio. And once again, from our end, a big thank you to Gaio for doing this fantastic work. And we're very excited to see how the bootcamp goes, as much as all the participants are as well. So back to you, Paul.
Right. Thank you very much, Ridi. That was very inspiring. And it's quite amazing getting to learn from the people who have been on the ground doing the amazing work in terms of climate action and youth contribution so far. So yeah, so really just give an overview of what the bootcamp is about. So in just a few moments, let me just give you the objectives of this particular session. As you're already aware, there are 3 different sessions which will be running weekly, and then, as Rudy said, in the next month you have the cafe. So basically, today's session is to introduce the key principles of fundraising for climate-related initiatives. I believe some of us are new to climate funding and then also climate-related projects. Some might even advocate and those kind of stuff. So in case you want to know what climate funding is, what kind of climate funding is available, where to get funding from, and those kind of things, then you're in the right place. So just key principles of fundraising, and then also reflect on current strengths and gaps in resource mobilization. So no worries at all. You get a chance to ask questions regarding the opportunities that are available to you, those that are specific to your country or your region, or even the kind of climate project or startup or advocacy work that you do. And then also, as I started, explore different funding types, and then also we'll give you the opportunity to our expert today to guide you on how to define a clear proposal for climate funding in terms of building a climate project. What a good proposal should be, what should be your objectives, where should you look for funding, and how is the funding awarded. And then also we'll create a space for you to ask personal questions and then also learn more from our experts today. We have our experts already on the call, but before I introduce him, I just want to have your baseline knowledge of climate funding. So I'm just going to share a poll. Just can you let us know what is your experience in building climate project in searching for climate grants, and what have been your success stories so far. So I'll just launch the poll. Please let us know your experience with that. Yeah, you should see the poll on your screen. You see it, right? Yeah. So in just 10 minutes, everyone just let us know. So the first question is, have you ever applied for funding? Let us know if it's a yes or no. What is your biggest challenge in fundraising? And then also on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel about fundraising? Let me also chip this in. Should in case you are not very fluent in English, there is the audio transcription app in Zoom is activated, so you should be able to get the transcription in your local language or a preferred language of your choice. So in just the next 9 minutes, let us know your thoughts on it. Have you ever applied for funding? What is your biggest challenge in fundraising? On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel about fundraising? Sixty-two percent indicate no. 35 years. On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel about fundraising? Hmm. I'm still taking your feedbacks on it, so if you haven't, kindly do so for us. Thank you. Okay, in just about a minute and a half, I'll be closing the post and take feedback from it. Hmm. All right, so I'm closing the post now.
Hi, can I go ahead, please? I have a requirement.
Right, maybe it's a technical glitch. So I'm closing the post. Hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm just going to share the results with you. You should see. Hmm. You should see the results on your screen. Do let me know if you can see the results.
Yes, we
Anyone
can see the
confirm?
results.
All right, awesome. So
Yes,
the
we can see
results
the
of the
result.
poll is demonstrated. So out of 122 participants, 53, which is 42.0%, indicated yes, they've ever applied for funding. 53 out of 126, which is significant. 58%, which is 73, said no, they've never applied for any climate funding. Then you're at the right place. We're going to learn how to do that, where to do your search, and how to build a bankable project through this bootcamp. Congratulations, you are in luck. So, what is your biggest challenge in fundraising? We had 97 respondents. Give me a moment. Let me show the responses. Yeah, sorry about that. I believe the responses, the type ones are private, but I'll share with you right after our first expert delivers the session. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you in about fundraising? We had 10%, which is 12, respond very poor, 21% poor, 46 neutral, 16% good, and 7% excellent. Should in case you are among the people selected very poor, neutral, don't worry, you are at the right place. And I'm glad you are part of today's session. You get to learn from the experts how to do a climate project, how to build a very good portfolio for a climate project, and where to search for the right funding. So I believe our expert has also seen this, and he will try to veer his presentation towards helping you understand what to do and the right steps to take in your granting journey. So in a moment, let me just introduce our expert for the first session. So today's session is divided into two. The first one is to give you a general overview of how to build understanding the landscape. When we talk about climate funding or where to get grant search, what do you look out for? So the first one is understanding the landscape. Basically, our expert will be touching on the types of funding streams, where he will touch on seed grants. He would also touch on fellowships, institutional donor grants, accelerators or incubators, and then we also touch on crowdfunding. After that, we will take a Q&A and then also move to the next section, which is making your project fundable. And that boils down to your proposal, your networking skills, and other factors. So this session is indeed very important, and I wouldn't want to waste much of your time. Let me just take the moment to introduce our expert for today. So his name is Dr. Elvis Treasure-Abo. Should in case you are not from Ghana and the name doesn't sound very familiar to you, so sorry about that. So Dr. Elvis Treasure-Abo, over the last decade, has worked in the environmental sector in Ghana with experience in air quality and noise monitoring, air dispersion modeling, and geographic information systems analysis. Dr. Elvis also carried out consultancy work for a variety of clients, including the USAID, WHO, Eno Ghana Limited, and various players in the mining and energy sector in West Africa. So Dr. Elvis has a PhD in transport geography from the University of Ghana, where he researched accessibility and equity to healthcare and education in Accra. He also has a master's in environmental science from the University of Hohenheim in Germany and a certified agronomist with a master's in agriculture from the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. So Dr. Elvis leads the delivery of the Breathe Cities project for a city in Ghana, from strategy development to scoping and granting partners, which is where we are hoping to tap into today, granting partners, ensuring strong partners management and monitoring and reporting progress. So indeed, Dr. Elvis Treasurable is the right person for the session, and hopefully at the end of it, we'll be able to tap into his so many years of excellence and experience in doing grant search and building projects as well as fundable projects. So Dr. Elvis, if you can hear me, can you unmute and let us have your presentation? So nice to have you on board and welcome as well.
Thank you, Paul, for the long introduction. Yes. I want to find out, would you share the presentation from your end, or you would want me to share it from here?
Yeah, it would be great if you share from your end so you can control the pace of it. And
Okay.
yeah, my colleague Benedict will be prompting you with the time lapse, so we keeping on track.
That's great. Just a minute. Do I have permission to share?
Yeah, you should have permission to share. You're a co-host. He's not a co-host. Please make him a co-host. Doc, you're a co-host now, so you can share your screen.
Okay. Kindly let me know if you can see my screen.
Definitely we can.
Okay. Thank you all very much, and you're very much welcome. I have been following the chat to see the different people that have joined, and also I looked at the poll, which sort of gave me an understanding of what background of people I would be speaking to. My work here is to try and give you a good overview of what it would take to get a grant, what skills you need to develop, and then ultimately what you will need to be aware of if you want to grow in that area. The outline of my presentation for this first session will mainly look at the key principles of fundraising. What are the things that you need to keep in mind when you say you're looking for funds or looking for a grant? And the second part I'll talk about is everybody needs funding, which is why should we fund you and not the other person? And then looking at the different types of funding, what are the typologies when we come to climate funding? What are the different funding types that are there and their characteristics and some examples of them mainly? I would try and keep this as interactive as possible. What that means is that I would be coming to the people and call out people to get them to also answer questions from time to time. So it's not just going to be a listen without you saying anything. So I have the first question for everybody. Which climate funders do you know? You can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand and we'll hear you. Anybody to take it for us? Or in fact, not just one person, as many people that would want to. I can see a hand up. Yes, Panan, please go ahead.
How's it going? I think I know UNDP.
UNDP, that's great. We're all supposed to talk, so I'm looking through the list. Very soon I'll be mentioning names. So we've heard of UNDP. Which other funders in the climate space do we know? Yes, Mata. I have Piera. Piera, can you go ahead?
UNEP to some extent.
Okay, UNEP. There's Galaxy X10 5G. Oh, we have channels. Yep, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, we have also in my region, the Congo Basin, we have a
Blue Fund for Congo Basin.
Blue Fund for Congo Basin. That's great. Chanes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bright, I can see your hand up. Please unmute and talk.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity. The funders, I know that funds climate change. There's also this global environment facility,
Okay.
which is GEC, and also Africa Climate Change Fund.
Okay, that's great.
And also the Tony Romero Foundation.
Yeah. We
Thank
have
you.
Zoom user. Thank you. We have Zoom user. It's going to be as interactive as possible, so it's fine if you have your hand up. Zoom user, please go ahead. Which funds do you know?
Yes, I'm particularly familiar about the Youth for Climate Solutions Fund. Yes,
Okay.
that is one I know, yeah.
Piera is up again. Piera, go ahead.
The GEF, the Global Environmental Facility Trust Fund.
Okay. Zandile. Zandile, are you with us?
Yes. Okay, I know a Climate Works Foundation which provides grants to organizations working on climate solutions.
Yep. Delight.
Okay, I've heard about Green Climate Fund and Global Change Makers.
Okay. I think I'll take the last one from Lucy. Lucy Ayo. Lucy, are you with us? We had a few in the chat as well.
I know about I know about the Natural Resource Governance Institute. Yes, I'm with you.
Thank you.
I know
think
about
the Natural Resource Institute. Is that what you said, Ayo? Lucy?
yes, NRGI.
Yeah, so we had Green Climate Fund, we had Agri-Digital, World Bank, Nestle, UNDP, AFCC, Youth Empowerment Fund, Youth for Climate, GCF came a number of times. And then we had private sector, Environmental Justice Fund, Inter-American Development Bank, some climate, and then a couple of repetition for UNDP and FAO. Thank you very much. We got the new one is we got GIZ EU Rockefeller Foundation, which is new. And then we also got Climate Investment Fund. We got GYM and a couple of others. So good. You do know some funders. And I asked for this because I wanted us to, off the top of our head, find out how many funders we've heard of that are funding various things in the climate space. The top 20 funding organizations. When I say the top 20, these are organizations that have given out the most money globally. These are the top 20 funding organizations in the climate and philanthropy space, not only climate, but generally philanthropy. GCF, you have the Global Environment Facility, you have Climate Works. A couple of them were mentioned, but most of them were not mentioned because IKEA, Bloomberg Foundation, Bezos Fund, the African Development Bank, Oak Foundation, Shell Foundation, the Children's Investment Fund Foundation are some of these are the top 20 funding organizations globally. When we think of the top 20 funding organizations, I have another question which we can put in the chat. We're saying these are the top 20 funding organizations. Off the top of your head, and no chat GPT or AI tricks, how much funding did they disperse in 2024? All the top 20 funding organizations that we have shown right now. How much funding did they disperse in 2024? So I've seen 1 trillion. I've seen 0 billion. I've seen 20 million. There's 320 billion. There's 100 billion. There's 100 million. Summed together, yes. Everything summed together, not average. In total, how much money did they disperse? I've seen 1.3 trillion. I've seen 10 billion. I've seen over 1 billion. 1 billion. And then there's 30 billion. Okay. We can take the last bits and then we'll proceed to look at how much they actually dispersed. I've seen 100 billion and I've seen 12 billion, 20 billion. Thank you for the wonderful answers. And that sounds like a lot of money. There's the last one, which is 250 billion. In total, if we look at the top 20, and these are not all the funding organizations globally, these are just the top 20. The top 20 organizations globally disbursed $42.58 billion for just 2024. The reason why I'm interested in this to talk about it is to give us all an idea that not all the funding agencies, just the top 20, disburse this much money in a single year or a single funding window or in that way. And if you look at the charts, you would see that the most funds came from the World Bank, followed by the Asia Development Bank, and then there's the Green Climate Fund. USAID is here because they did disburse money in 2024, but it wouldn't be the same in 2025 if we're looking at it because they are not operational or functional anymore. They are not actively funding. But just to give us an idea of what the top 20 funding organizations disperse in a year. And yes, I see someone asking who gets the funds. And there's interesting to see Packard Foundation and Shell Foundation in top 20. Yes, Packard Foundation and Shell Foundation do give quite a lot of money. So they are not small. They're actually part of the top 20. And I see so disappointing. Is it because nobody applied? We would get to understand if indeed nobody applied or what was the situation. Because when we say disburse, what it means is that this is money they gave out to organizations, to projects, to government, to CSOs for various activities at the end of the day. So it's important for us to understand if this is how much money is disbursed in a year, is to let you know the pool within a pot that you can draw from if you do the right things, if you get your boxes right, if you are able to do the appropriate things you need to do. Okay, so Prudence says GCF seems to declare so much money, but it's hard to access. And even when they are working with local banks, their funds seem hard to access. We'll look at what it means to access money. So thank you all very much. I'll go on to talk about the key things, the key principles that we need to understand. If I'm going to look for money from anybody at all, what do I need to keep in mind? Or if I say I'm raising funds for a climate related action or project or initiative, what are the core things that I should keep my mind on? The first on my list is alignment. When we say alignment, it's basically referring to ensuring that your project's goal is in line with the mission, focus, and priority areas of potential funders. Every funding agency, organization, or re-grantor has what they consider important to them. They have what they want to invest their funds or resources in. They also have what areas they want to put money in. If you do not align your idea could be so wonderful. It could be the best idea in the world. But if you keep going to funders who are not aligned or do not consider the area a priority area, you will not get funding for it. For instance, if you go to an organization that is just funding conservation and you say you're working on cook stoves, your cook stove idea may be so wonderful. It could be great. It could have high impact, but at the end of the day, the organization you're going to look for funds or to raise funds with does not have cook stove as their priority area, and hence they will not be able to give you money at the end of the day. Organizations would only give money when projects or initiatives are in line with their mission, their focus, and priority areas at the end of the day. The second principle is credibility. Credibility here is, it can come in the form of goodwill, it can come in the form of reference, recommendations, but it's basically what credibility tells anybody looking at your request for funding is that you have the capacity, you have the expertise, and you have the governance structure to deliver results on the proposed project. So if I say I'm going to distribute 1 million cook stoves in a year, do I have the capacity to actually get 1 million cook stoves? Do I know where I'm going to put those cook stoves? Am I just going to distribute them, or it's going to give me a certain impact at the end? I'm going to achieve a certain goal in the end. And I have the needed governance structure to be able to deliver what I say I am going to do. It is important to ensure that your credibility is not lacking, even if you have a good alignment with the funder, but they are not convinced. And that's what you would usually hear. Most people would not tell you. It's usually spoken within the assessment rooms, within the windows, and say, oh yeah, they have a good idea, but we don't think they have the capacity to do it, or we don't think they can actually follow through with it. And this is the tricky part. Often it can happen that a funder will realize your work is aligned with them, but you lack the capacity. Some funders will try to pair you with a different organization that they are so sure has capacity, so that you can build your capacity, your credibility, or your governance structure. Some organizations will also say, you don't meet what we're looking for in terms of credibility. When we look at your books, when we look at your policies, you look at your structure, it doesn't look like you can deliver what you're saying we should give you money for. And so we're not going to give it to you. You can think of credibility as using the most male way I can think of it is when you're using, quote unquote, a small vehicle to pull a 10-ton trailer. It's not going to be possible. Your trailer may be packed with some of the best goodies in the world, but it should have the engine capacity, it should have the engine power to drive it as well. And so credibility is what convinces anybody that you have what it takes to do what you're saying you should be given money for at the end of the day. The third principle, which is important, is clarity. It should be your number one duty to ensure that even if it's just 30 seconds you get to talk to somebody, you're able to share your mission, your theory of change, and expected outcomes in a way that they understand and in a way that they feel compelled. That if they have money, they will be interested in giving you that money to do what you say you want to do. So often you meet people who have aligned their works and their projects with the funders' priority areas and focus and mission. They have shown that, or they do have capacity. In this case, they wouldn't be able to show. They do have capacity, expertise, and the governance structure, but they are not able to communicate it in a way that anybody listening to them can tell them, oh, if this is what you want to do, then sure, we're going to give you money to do it. Or we're going to give you a fellowship for this period, or we're going to give you a grant for that period, or we can incubate you to achieve that or achieve this. It's important that keeping things simple, as clear as possible, and making sure you have said it to as many people as possible and they have told you they understand what you're saying and what you want to do. It's very important because often you have only one chance with a funder, and when you blow it, what becomes is that they don't know what they want to do because they didn't understand what you want to do. They didn't feel compelled to fund your project. And so that is one thing to also keep in mind, that you need the clarity to be able to communicate your mission, whatever theory of change you want to work with or approach you want to use, and what outcomes you're looking to achieve at the end of the day. The fourth core principle is impact. So someone says, oh, we want to share cook stoves to 1 million people. That's a great idea. But for what? At the end, if you succeed in sharing 1 million cook stoves to people, what would you have achieved? Sharing the cook stoves cannot be your achievement. It's not an impact. And so it's important to understand what impact you want to make, what measurable environmental or social benefit that is going to come out if what you want to do is funded at the end of the day. If the funder decides that, okay, you need X amount, I'm going to give you X amount. If they do give you that X amount, what environmental or social benefit are you able to, or would you be able to accomplish that can be measurable at the end of the day? And so it's important to think of impact in a way that it's not just you who sees the impact, but anybody else can be able to measure that impact and be able to attest to what you have achieved when you are done doing what you said you would do. The last aspect is networking, and this is very important. So after you've done all, I call that after you've done all the dressing and polishing and powder and all the makeup and eyelashes, you now need to step out in the open before you can actually show people what you're made of. You can show people what credibility, you can show people the clarity, the impact you're looking to achieve, the alignment you have is where networking comes in. You should understand that the funding ecosystem has a way it functions. Who the funders are, what they care about, and how they make decisions is important for you when you're looking for money at the end of the day. It is also important for you to do what I call finding an advocate. In every funding agency that you say, I'm going to look for funding, you're better off doing the networking bits, even if it's for a year, to apply for a different funding window than just throwing in applications. Because at the end of the day, the question that anybody who's reviewing works asks is, have you heard of this organization before? If nobody's heard of your organization, trust you're not going to get money because nobody knows you. And so the networking here is where you use every available tool to you, not just social media. If you need to go online and check, if you need to go on LinkedIn, send them a message, send them an introductory email, send them a simple brochure of what you do and what your work is about. Even before you get to the place of asking them for money, make sure you have found an acquaintance in that organization or agency. Often you would see a funding call and it says, oh, contact this person for more information. Maybe you don't qualify at that stage, but send an email to that email and say, oh, what do we need to do to get money? We are ABCD, we're doing this, we're doing that. And they'll tell you, oh, you don't qualify for this, but if you do ABCD, and that's a way to start. Then you can send an email later on and say, oh, we just went to do this, we met this organization, we've done that, we've done that. It built up from there. So when next you now put in an application and say, I want X amount of money, the organization knows you, not as an organization, but someone in there can say, oh, yes, we know them, or they are doing A, they are doing B, they are doing C. And so they can trust you. Mind you, you only build trust with the funder when you network. The funder has to know who they're giving their money to. Because at the end of the day, they're going to hold you accountable. If you're some ghost in the wind, how are they going to hold you accountable when they don't know what you've done, how well you've done the work, and what you've been able to achieve at the end of the day? And so you can have all the various principles in line, but if your networking is out of place, you would still not get money. In doing all the various principles, you need to crown it with networking and show what you have done with alignment, with credibility, with clarity, with impact. Then people are going to say, oh, you know, there's this money. You should contact this organization because they have done A, B, C, D, and I met them at that organization, and I met them at that organization. It's important to go to meetings, go to conferences, go to convenings. Even if it's not about you, go and connect with people. Go and find contacts. Go and meet people. Take numbers, take emails, reach out to them, share what you're doing, tell them what you find interesting and what you're looking to do. If you do not do the networking bits, it's going to be hard for you to apply all the other core principles of fundraising at the end of the day. I would move on to the next session, which is everyone needs funding. Yes, I'm talking to a number of people. There's 200 of you. So everybody's done the alignment. Everybody's done the credibility work. They've done the impact work. They've done the clarity work. They are out there networking. Why should anybody not fund the other person but you? And so it's important that having a great project idea or vision is not enough. Having the technical capabilities is good. Being a grassroots organization, working with low income, working with marginalized groups, working with people who are most impacted is so good. But what you need to understand is that to make all of that a reality, you do need to have funds. What kind of funding do you have? So you say you want to work with low income people so that they can better of their skill set. You say you want to work with people who are marginalized so they can improve their lot. But if you do not have the money, it all becomes wishful thinking. I just seen a question in the chat. I'm not going to respond to questions in the chat, but this is not a typical question about what is being presented. Yes, the slides will be shared through the email chain after this. I did share it with them, so you would receive the slides after. But try and listen to what I'm saying, because there's a lot more I'm saying that is not on the slides also, just so we can all follow in that way. If you do not have funds, but you have a great project idea, you have a great vision, one of the things that you need to ask yourself is, for all the other things that are there, for all the other people that are looking for money, why should I be funded over all the other projects that need funding also? There's usually one way I tell grantees, or I tell people looking for money. Every single problem in this world is important. Wash is important. Climate change is important. Malaria is important. School children out of school is very important. Everything else is important. Your work as an individual who has a vision, who has a great project idea, is to let anybody listening to you feel like that is the most important thing in the world, and without doing that, the world will stop going round. It is your work to make sure you know how to make your idea and your project very important to other people, such that it doesn't have to wait behind the line. To be able to do that, you need to think of a number of things. It is one thing having the idea, knowing this is what I want to do, knowing that is what I want to do, but know how you're going to tell people what your idea is. Yeah, so I want to do cook stoves, or I want to do solar grid off-grid solar in schools in rural areas. It's a great idea, but why should I get money? It's where I now need to go and do the homework. The homework is get a personalized story. Find out what the depth of the problem you're looking at is. So how many people are actually being affected? School children don't have lights, but is it affecting their grades? Maybe it's not. You should be the one to tell everybody how much they not having lights is literally destroying their future. It's literally causing them to have bad grades. It's literally causing them to drop out of school and not seeing school as important. You need to make the case so strong that if the funder had the last penny to give to a grant, you will be the one they'll give it to. And that is where you need to get data. Data is also, I usually will put data and evidence in the same category. Go and look for evidence, look for hard numbers, and look for soft stories. Stories of what people have experienced. numbers of what the statistics say when you look at your problem. If you don't do that, everything you're saying becomes a sweet narrative without any backing or any foundation to convince anyone that they should give you money over anybody else. If you come to anybody and say, in the last 5 years, over 10 million children in this city have failed their exams because they do not have adequate tuition or adequate lightning, the person then begins to ask themselves, if I have money and I can impact 10 million people, why not? And that is what makes the story important. It is those evidence and hard numbers that exist that is what makes your idea go beyond just an idea to jump in the line to get the money that you need. It's also that in justifying why you should be funded, it is important for you to understand where your strength is and where your weakness is. Where your strength is if your strength is numbers, do the numbers. If your weakness is not telling a case study story well, find people who can tell it well for you. Because at the end of the day, it's a combination of not only your strength and your weakness, but it's a combination of all that you can put together to tell anybody why they need to give you money that gets you the money. And it doesn't have to be just what comes from your head. It has to be everything else you can mobilize. There's this saying that says a great leader is not the one who can do all the work on their own, but a great leader is the one who can find all the people who are great at what they do to do what needs to be done. So you may not be great at storytelling. Find people who can tell your story for you. It's a combination of you, your great numbers and evidence, and someone else's great storytelling that can get you that money or that funding that you're looking for in order to do the great idea and impact the people you want to impact at the end of the day. So it goes without saying that know what you need to do to get ahead of whatever grants queue is there, and also know what weakness and what strength you have and take advantage of those. The next section, the next thing that I like to think of is that there are essential skills in convincing people that you need to be funded beyond other people. The first of it is storytelling. Storytelling is where you are able to tell your project or your initiative in a way that is captivating, that is interesting, that has a beginning, it has an ongoing mode, and it could even have ended a certain phase because everybody loves a story. Often people think that you need to go and do the robotic, the problem I'm researching on is this and da 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 da. No. Start with a story. Also, you know this boy because you've done the work. You've gone to the village where you want to work. The boy is just 12 years. Whenever he has light, he starts learning. You've asked him why he doesn't learn, and he says that he doesn't have lights. And even though he's a very smart boy, he's just one of many people in the 10 villages in that region who could do so much more. Knowing how to tell your story goes a long way to keep someone stuck on you. Even after you are done talking to them, that story plays on. When you're done saying the story and you're long gone, they will still remember it because you said it in a story way. You made it, you humanized it, you made it interesting, you made it captivating, and you made them think about it. And so the networking you're going to do that networking armed with a strong storytelling ability. That you're going to go there and tell stories that is going to keep people thinking about what you want to do, such that they're going to come back and say, we have this money, we've been thinking about what you told us, and we want to give you X amount. Often it may not even be what you're looking for. Maybe you want $10,000. The funder says, I have $2,000. Would you take it? Because we heard your story and we want to go with that. It's important for you to know how to tell your story. There's an African proverb that says that until the lion learns to write and tell its own story, hunters will always tell stories that glorify them. Don't expect anybody else to tell your story in a way that puts you ahead. Your story is what's going to give you the chance to be over any other grant queue or any other projects that are also looking for money. And the first skills, which is super essential, is storytelling. The next skills which I talk about is budgeting. And I like to spend a lot of time on budgeting because people think, oh, okay, so I need $10,000. I'm going to put 2,000 to personnel. I'm going to put 3,000 to this. I'm going to do that. No, it's a terrible way of budgeting. And usually, what that means is that you do not take the time to think through the practicality of what your project is looking to do, such that often people get the money and then they now go to the funder and say, I think we under budgeted. The only reason you under budgeted is because you did not take the time to do the thinking. The thinking means you need to anticipate what is going to happen. So I want to distribute solar lamps in 10 villages. These villages are 10 kilometers apart. In my budgeting, this is what I do. Oh, I budget. Every village is going to need $1,000. So I'm going to need just $12,000. Each village is $1,000 for their light and $1,000 or $2,000 for administrative work. Okay, that is nice and that's good. But the problem is, are the villages all the same sizes? When or how would you know if you are budgeting in a way that you're not even allocating resources in a way that will give you the most impact? And so you need to do the research work before you do the budgeting. Go to these villages, find the size, find the population, find the distribution of the different age groups. How many schools are there? How much would it cost me to travel across? There's a saying that it's a Ghanaian saying. I'm not sure if it's an African saying. It says you use meat to catch meat. To say that when you go fishing, you put a worm on the hook line and it's going to give you a bigger meat, which is a fish at the end of the day. So you need to spend some money to do a proper budgeting. Go to the market, ask people, how much does it cost to rent a vehicle from here to here? How much does it cost to engage X person for that period? Once you do that work, when you now sit down and do your budget, you would have thought thoroughly about what you're looking to do. And in that way, anybody who is looking at it would understand and you would have justifications. Often, the issue I've had to deal with as a portfolio manager is you would meet people, send you a budget. And this is the most hilarious was this. We're given a grant, we're selected an agency. We're giving them a grant of $250,000. The budget that the grants presented to us for review as part of the development of the grant was $1.5 million. And this is not even a joke. They sent an email with a budget of $1.5 million. My simple response to that was, you know the grant amount you're supposed to get. Please budget to the grant amount and please take your time to think through what you need to do. It doesn't have to be $1.5 million because we don't have $1.5 million to give to you. Often, a lot of the thinking doesn't go into this. A lot of the thinking goes into the bulk amount that we think we need. But to have the bulk amount, you should have done the micro budgeting to know what feeds into the bulk amount. If someone then sits you down and asks you, you put X amount for this, why? You put Y amount for this, why is it so? You would have a good explanation and a good justification to why your numbers look the way they look and why you're convinced that is how you're going to achieve the impact that you are looking to achieve. Often you get people say, oh, yeah, we just put a number there, but we can reduce it. But if you did the homework, why can't I just reduce it? And so it's important for you to spend a little time. If you do not know how to budget, there are a lot of budgeting approaches on YouTube. Go online, learn how to budget. You can't be looking for funding without knowing how to budget. It is going to be impossible for you to defend whatever money you're looking for if you can't do a proper budget. So spend a good time how to do a good budget, how to validate that budget, and how to even defend that budget at the end of the day. Because when it all comes down to a funder telling you, oh, we're going to give you $100,000. And then you get people asking you, what do you want us to do with the $100,000? So why are you looking for $100,000 if you do not know what you want to do? And so it's important for you to have a clear understanding of what you want to do, how you want to do it. The next aspect is, the next thing which I like to think about is donor engagement. It's important for you to know how to engage your donor or how to engage donors. There's a way you send your emails, there's a way you respond to them, there's a way you need to relate to them, and you need to learn it. Your donor is someone who is funding your work. They should get the most priority and the most attention, and they shouldn't feel like you do not have their time. And so learn donor engagement and learn how to manage them also, because they are an essential part. Once you get the funding, you need that skills to keep your work going. The next thing which I'll touch on is proposal writing. You could have all the nice ways of talking, but when you've done all the talking, this is what everybody is going to tell you. Can you put something together and send to us at the end of the day? So if you can put something together and send to them, they'll be so happy to come back to you and say, okay, let's do that. So please spend some time also to do a proper proposal. And then there's the last bit, which a lot of organizations ignore, which is grant management. When someone gives you money, there is a way that they expect you to manage the money. There's a way that they expect you to keep the money in check at the end of the day. So it's important for you to know how you're managing that money and what you are going to do and be accountable for it. I just have the last bit to wrap up for this session, which is a question. Of all these things, where do you rank in these essential skills? You can put it in the chat. Would you say you're very good at this, or you're learning this, or you're learning that? Let us know. And it's important for you to tell us how you can stand out. So I would wrap up for this session. Thank you very much. We're already overboard. I think there were a lot of examples, but it's good to know you have also had a good time. So thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. That was very amazing. So I picked up a lot of stuff from it. You shared some funding sources. You shared some information that is needed to do donor relationships. You spoke about credibility, clarity, impact, networking, and all of that, which are very amazing. So I will leave the opportunity for the participants to ask their questions. Just so we have effective moderation, kindly put your questions in the chat session. I'll just be asking Doc one after the other for just 10 minutes. So we'll probably do about 5 questions and then we jump on straight to the next session. So kindly leave your questions there and then I'll just moderate asking Doc on it. Right. There have been some questions that have been asked already. There was a question from Eric Waterstrand. Sorry, from Angela Felix Otieno. He's saying that why is Adaptation Fund not part of the top 20 agencies, and yet it supports projects in developing countries to adapt to climate change impacts? Doc, briefly just touch on it for us.
So I think I should give a reason for the top 20. Top 20 here is in terms of the amount of money they give out. So you'd realize there's World Bank, which gives out the most, and then in that order. So it's not based on where they work, it's based on how much money they give out globally. So that's the reason. So I'm sure if we're looking at geographic spend or geographic granting, Adaptation Fund may come in, but globally in terms of how much money these organizations give out for philanthropy, these are the top 20.
Right. Thank you very much. Yeah. And to those who have questions, kindly put it in the chat session, as I will not be giving you the opportunity to ask it personally because of time management. So sorry for that. So there is A question from Esther. She's asking, how do I manage and track my spending? Any advice from me?
So that's why I said it's important for you to understand budgeting. Budgeting goes with bookkeeping, which is a simple skills in accounting. Know when money goes out, know when money comes in, keep track of it, and even generate a receipt. These simple skills are very good auditing tools at the end, because once you're keeping track of how much money you're putting to what, receipting for it, and how much money you're getting for what and receipting for it, you're already keeping track of your expenses. There are also in your personal life, you could start in that way. There are lots of tools you can use. There's Weeple, there are different fund or money managing apps. Have one at the end of your day, track all that you spent, track whatever money comes in. And that's also a new way of you managing your money. And then by that's developing your professional skills to manage money as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. Perhaps we just take our last question, or maybe just last two. There's a question from Bongi Kili. Sorry if I didn't mention your name correctly. I apologize. Would you say donors prefer funding registered organizations over individuals? What's your take on it, please?
So if you say donors, I would have a very broad answer. There are different types of donors. There are fellowships which usually go to individuals, and that's a kind of funding. So it depends on the kind of donor that you're looking at. Some donors, like most philanthropy donors, will not fund an individual, but most fellowships go to individuals, and most seed grants sometimes can go to an individual if the person is an innovator. So it depends on which donor you're looking at. If you're looking for an individual funding, know the kind of donors or funding agencies or organizations you go to. And some are very happy to fund individuals.
Right. Thank you very much. So we'll just take our last question and then we'll move to the next session. I would also encourage you to keep putting your questions in the comment section. After the next session, we'll still come back to the questions. So there's a question from Sumuhaiti. He or she is asking, after getting the grant, how often should someone engage the donor? What about if the funds are not enough during the implementation of the project? How do I disclose that to them? So it's a 3-in-1 question.
I actually would answer the first one, which is every funding agency will tell you what kind of engagements they require. If you take, there are two streams that I have worked on. There's a funding agency which requires you to report weekly on what you're doing and monthly. I've also seen funding agencies that require you to have monthly meetings or quarterly meetings or half-year meetings. The funder will tell you what kind of engagements they need, but they also have within their clause that anytime they ask you something about the grant, outside these engagement periods, they expect you to respond to them. The last thing you want to do is to keep your funder on email waiting for a week without responding to whatever question they're asking you about the grant. So that is on that aspect. How do you tell them you have run out of money? It's important for you to be as honest as possible. So I'll tell you a typical example. You decided to get money for 10 villages. You had $1,000, 20 or $200 per village. You now go into the village and realize one village was so big, they needed $400 or $600. So because it's very big and you get more impact, you decided to work there. It means you do not have money to work on the other villages. Before you do the 400 expense, and that's what becomes the big mistake. Before you spend money that will make you not have enough money, always go to the grant or the funder and tell them, I have $600 left, but I have 7 communities to work in. I'm thinking of doing 2 communities and then leaving out 3. What do you advise? Let the funder be aware of how you intend to spend your money and why you intend to spend it the way you're spending it. Once they are aware, they will be very happy with you, even if you do not do the 10 villages at the end of the day. So donor engagement again comes in here. You don't go and do it and now come back and tell them. You tell them before you go and do it. Because the moment you go and do it before you come and tell them, then the risk is on you alone. You didn't share it with them for their advice.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. For those who are still asking the questions, please keep them coming. At this particular segment, we'll go back to the questions and we'll get opportunity to address them. So the next segment talks about making your project fundable. What should you do to ensure that your project fits the criteria of the donor? How do you position your project in such a way that there's the assurance that you could win a grant? So, Doc, in the next 15 minutes, we'll be grateful if you could jump straight to your presentation on making project fundable and the exact items to tackle as an applicant looking for a grant. Whilst we're doing that, I also encourage you all to turn your cameras wherever you are so we could just take a photo together whilst Doc is presenting. So Doc, over to you again and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. I would try and finalize the last section. So climate funding typologies I saw a couple of questions on that, but this would address some of them. The total estimated grant disbursement in 2024, which we've talked about from the top 20 global funders, was 42.58 billion. The data shows that less than 2% of that total global philanthropy goes to climate mitigation, which means there's a big funding gap between funding for climate-related action and climate-related activities. It's important for you to know how to assess which type of funding best suits a project stage. If I'm starting a project, which funders can I go to? If I'm in the middle of the project or if I'm at the end of it, who are good for me to go to get funding from? Or I got a small grant and I've started to a point, but I need extra money to upscale it or to move it to a different level. You should know what kind of funder would be interested in that. Also, understand that there are different types of funding and then there are nuances to it. There are different timelines, different reporting requirements, and different expectations at the end of the day. It's important for you to be aware of it so that you know how you can meet them. If you think you cannot meet them, do not go for money from a funder that you can't meet their expectations or their requirements. There can also be significant improvement in your chance of success if you are able to build the right sustainable funding pipeline, such that I got 10,000 from a small grant. I worked, it was for 2 years. Within that 2 years, I've been able to raise $50,000 from 3 other funders. And the first grantor who gave me $10,000 says he wants to give me $200,000. That only happens when you do what is expected of you, when you check all the boxes, and when you do not default on core principles and values of the funder. If someone funds you in a small amount, often if you prove yourself, they will fund you in large amounts. Or it's easy for them to refer you to another funder who can give you a larger amount of money. It's important to keep that in mind. There are 6 major categories of funding sources in general. There are other typologies, but I'll stick to the 6 as we go through them. So there's the philanthropic funding. A typical example of that are usually foundations, family offices, and donor advised funds like Clean Air Fund. Often they are mission driven. They have a specific agenda. They are aligned towards a certain social or environmental justice or mission or goal. They have flexible funding where they can do core support or multi-year grants. And then the application process vary from calls to invitations only. We never do open calls for funding at Clean Air Fund. It's mainly invitation. There are a lot of organizations under the philanthropic funding that also do that. This is why networking is so important. It means that if nobody knows you to invite you, there's no way you're going to get money from a philanthropic funding agency. So it's important for you to understand the different kinds of funding and how to tap into their funding streams. The next funding typology is the government or multilateral grants. Here we have UNDP, the Global Environmental Facility, there's USAID, EU Horizon, and these are mainly large-scale funding for policy, infrastructure, and capacity building, often for government agencies. They require partnership, co-funding, or rigorous reporting, and then they prioritize alignment with national and international climate goals. So you should align with the Paris Agreement or align with the Africa We Want goals and those kind of things before they can give you funding at the end of the day. And then we have the corporate and CSR funding. These are mainly sustainability arms of large companies like Patagonia, like Google, like Unilever, and Nestle, and many others. They focus on innovation, impact, and brand alignment. They are mainly interested in-kind support, sponsorship, or employee engagement, and they increase interest in ESG aligned and net zero initiatives. I wouldn't spend too much time on this, but if you know what ESG is, you can pop it in the chat for us so that the others who do not know can also learn about it in that way. And then we have the impact investment and climate finance. These are mainly green bonds, venture capitalists, blended finance, and then climate funds like the Green Climate Fund. They seek both financial returns and measurable climate impacts. They look for things that they can scale that are revenue generating. So often clean tech or blue economy or circular economy, things in that way. And they require strong business models and impact metrics because they want to be scalable. Your business model and the impact metrics should be something that they can see that if you expand this with 10 million, it would still stand and will still be profitable and it can meet a certain objective or outcome. The fifth type of typology is the fellowship and individual support. So for the question about if individuals do fund, yes, there are specific funding agencies that do just that. They support individuals with leadership potential and innovation ideas. So some of you may hear of Yali, may hear of Obama, may hear of the Mandela Foundation, may hear of the Tony Elumelu and other foundations, and they are more interested in individuals than organizations. They offer funding, mentorship, and global networks. They are ideal for early stage change makers and grassroots leaders. The sixth type of funding is a crowdfunding or community-based financing. There are Kickstarters, there are GoFundMe, global giving, local initiatives. The last part is the competitive thing. So there's a competition where you are pitching different ideas and whoever has the best one wins X amount of funding. And that is usually very much a type of funding that's there. They rely on public support and storytelling. It builds community ownership and visibility, and they are best for small scale, tangible projects, often with emotional appeal. So that is the major type of climate funding typologies that are there. Making your projects fundable. I would talk about two main things. Tell me a story, pitch season, and then fundraising personal learning goals. So tell me a story. Mainly when we say tell me a story, it's a blowout of the storytelling aspect. There's one thing that most people think that if I tell the funder I'm going to meet 20 people and travel to 10 villages and do 1 million stove distribution and do that. Yes, those are activities. The funder is not hearing what those activities are going to achieve. And so you would meet someone who says, oh, we met 10,000 children last year, so you should fund us. Yes, you met 10,000 children last year. That's activity. It's not a bad initiative. But the most important thing is that what did that activity produce at the end of the day? When you met those 10,000 children, what did you find out? What objective were you looking to achieve? Or what goal did you achieve by that kind of meeting? So funders are more interested in you telling them something that is going to give them an impact. And so, yes, to achieve an impact, you need to carry out an activity. But that activity should be geared towards a certain outcome. So once you achieve that outcome, if you were hoping to educate 200 children on climate change, you met 1,000 children, you did a pre-post surveys, and you realize you've gotten that education, you can stop meeting children. You don't need to go on doing activity when you've achieved your outcome. It means you can build on that. So activity is where you're doing things without the different things being targeted at a certain outcome or a certain goal. Whereas impact focus is where you want to get to a certain destination. So you list out the different activities, the results that you're going to get from those different activities, which are outputs, and how those little or mini outputs together can give you a certain outcome. And that is what most funders are interested in. And so when you tell a funder that I am going to do XYZ activity and you stop there, the funder is not going to give you money because the funder has only heard your activity focused thinking without hearing what impact you're looking to achieve. And so often people have a lot of activities in the projects that they want to do and very, very little impact because all those activities are not connecting or are not linked or are not reinforcing each other to achieve a certain outcome or a certain goal. And so if I decide to do various activities, I should think what is the linkages between those different activities that I've decided to do. In linking those different activities, how are they reinforcing each other and how are they driving me towards the goal that I intend to achieve at the end of the day? And this is the kind of interest and focus most funders are interested in. And so you meet people who say, we want to go out and test 10,000 children for malaria. Okay, what is the purpose of that? Oh, then we'll know the malaria status of the children. Okay, but if you know the malaria status of the children, what does it do? What does it achieve? Does it tell anybody something? Or what are you trying to tell at the end of the day? And so it's important for you to not only think of the activity that you want to do, but also think of what that activity can contribute to, what outcome it can achieve at the end of the day. In thinking about it, we come back to the question again. Why should someone invest in your project? And I did talk about some of the things that you need to do, the skills you need to get. In giving a strong answer, you must clearly communicate the problem that you're looking to address. You should also talk about what is unique about what you want to do, aside what others want to do. What are the tangible benefits that will result when you do the unique thing you want to do at the end of the day? And it should be rooted in evidence. That's why I talked about getting data, getting case studies, getting testimonials, doing the research part, and framing it in a way that resonates with values and priorities of the funders, such that when they think about what they want to do, your story comes to mind. It is important to learn how to say the most essential things in a very simple way within a very short time. You may not have all the time to explain a complex model to a funder who you met at a lunch or at a dinner or at an event. So it's important for you to have what we have often heard as the elevator pitch. Who knows what is an elevator pitch? You can pop the answer in the chats so that we can all look over it later on. But mainly what we're going to focus on is to look at what key elements of an effective elevator pitch. If I intend to do an elevator pitch, what should my elevator pitch involve? What do I need to have in there at the end of the day? An effective elevator pitch should have a hook, which is where you start with a powerful sentence or a statement or a question that gets people's attention. So to say that a lot of children in rural areas are whiling away, or it's such a shock to go to school in rural areas, then the person is now going to wonder, wait, what's shocking about going to school in rural areas? Rural area children are getting no education. Is that true? Why are you saying that? It's important to know what hook you're going to use for what you want to present at the end of the day. And the next thing your elevator pitch should have is a problem statement. Clearly define the climate related issue you're looking to address. Are you looking to address urban heat? Are you looking to address deforestation? Are you looking to address energy related indoor cooking, energy, clean cooking, or clean tech? Whichever one you intend to, have it clearly stated out so that you now don't need to explain it over and over again at the end of the day. The third aspect is that you should have a solution. Describe what your project or innovation is going to do to address the problem that you have talked about. So there's school children are dropping out in rural areas because they don't have lights, because they don't have teachers. What we're doing is we're going to do remote learning. We're going to provide them with electricity and give them internet. And by that, X, Y, Z. You should have an idea of, if you do what you say you're going to do, what results you're going to get at the end of the day. And that's where your impact comes in. That when you have now talked about your solution, what kind of impact is it going to do? Is it environmental? Is it social? Or is it economic at the end of the day? What I would want us to do is we're going to do a very simple exercise. And I don't have enough time or too much time, but I would still try and get all of us to participate as much as possible. So we're going to call on two people. You can raise your hand who would verbally tell us a very quick or effective elevator pitch based on these 4 key elements that an effective elevator pitch should have. Whilst the 2 people do that, the rest of us, we can put our elevator pitch in the chat just so we can all have a look at what we would have said if we got the chance. So I will let Paul select the 2 people for me, but everybody else can put their elevator pitch in the chat for us to read.
Hi, thank you very much, Doc. So quickly, I see just 2 people, male and female. I'll pick Adam Mohammed, and then I'll also pick Adeline Nwamana. I hope I got the name correct. Adam Mohammed and Adeline Nwamana, if you could hear me.
Okay, so
Good.
Can we have your elevator pitch, Adam Mohammed and
Adeline.
Adeline? Adam, are you with us? Or if you can choose other people. It doesn't look like they want to
it
talk.
seems Ahmad Uddin and Karim Kamara have volunteered to give us their pitch. So
Karim Kamara.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Can I start now?
Yes.
Okay. What if we could stop farmers from losing nearly half of their harvest every growing season? Hi, I'm Karim Kamara from Sierra Leone. We are building a solar-powered cold storage innovation made from recycled shipping containers and Second Life batteries. Growing up, I watched my mother struggle to feed us, even as food went to waste in our community. And today, smallholder farmers in rural Sierra Leone are losing over 40% of their harvest, which is over $1 million United States dollars a year in our pilot community alone. SolarFresh is working to solve this problem. With our solar-powered cold storage innovation that extends crop shelf life from the usual 5 days to 21 days. And for just $15, farmers can save over $95 for every 100 kg of produce, which would have otherwise gone to waste. We are actively seeking funding to scale our impact across Sarah. Join us in reducing food waste, building a strong and more resilient future for our farmers and our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamara. So I'll briefly just analyze. Kamara has all the elements. He did a switch around between solution and problem. He brought his solution first before he stated the problem. And then he talked about the impact, which is an economic benefit to people. And then it has some environmental benefit because once food doesn't go waste, it means that you're going to prevent environmental degradation and then people are going to save more money. We have the next person. So thank
Doc,
you, Kamara, for your
sorry.
pitch.
Yeah, Doc, for the sake of time,
Okay, we'll
we
just take one
apologize. We
pitch.
won't take the next person. We beg you.
That's
So
fine.
can
Okay.
you give us your conclusion remarks and then we'll go back to Rudy to give us the final words.
Okay, so I would quickly just jump to two things, which is the fundraising personal learning goals, that there are different levels you can start from. Some of you are at the beginning level, which is you need to understand the basic types of climate funding, identify three that fit your project, draft a one-pager value proposition of your climate idea, and then learn how to write a simple concept note or grant application. Create a list of 5 potential funders or fellowship and practice delivering a 60 seconds elevator pitch about your project to friends and to other stakeholders until you've perfected it so well that you can talk to funders. The other one for people who are advanced and who said in the poll that they have applied for some funding, it's important for you to learn how to diversify your funding sources by exploring impacts, investment, or CSR partnerships, mentor a peer or a junior team member in developing their fundraising skills, refine your theory of change and align it with funder priorities, and then develop a pitch deck or proposal template for future funding opportunities. Strengthen donor steward by creating a follow-up and reporting plan. Thank you. And if there's still time for questions, I will take some. If not, it's been great.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. We're very grateful for the insight that you shared. So for the sake of time, I'll just give the opportunity for one question. I wouldn't like you to go without just giving opportunity for the questions that were asked initially. So we'll just ask one question. You give us an answer, then we hand over to Rudy to give us the final remarks. So there was a question from Isaac Wambaza. I hope I had it correct. So he's saying that I've encountered challenges while filing proposal application forms, whereby you realize that the word limit in the problem statement section is not enough to apply to aptly describe the problem. How can I overcome this? So it's more or less like technical issues with respect to wording and word count.
So I would go to clarity as the core principle. You don't need so much to state what your problem is in reality. You should, in practice and in learning, learn how to summarize your problem in the most shortest form, irrespective of how much word limit you're given. If the grantor or funder says you have 3 lines, tell us what problem you want us to fund. If you've done the necessary practice, it should be possible for you to do that. So rather improve on the clarity aspect, improve on how well you can summarize your problem and still have it communicated as clear as possible.
Right. Thank you very much, Doc. We are very grateful for the insight that you've shared, the information provided, the presentation, the kind of funding that are available to everyone who wants to secure funding for their climate project. In our next sessions next week, same time, we'll be looking at budgeting, and then the subsequent ones also will be looking at maintaining donor relationships. So if you asked a question and the question was not addressed, we've kept record of everything that you've asked. We'll also repeat them hopefully in our next sessions, and then you'll get your responses from our next experts. So Doc, thank you once again. And for everyone who participated. Before I go back to Rudy, there'll be discussions on the page, on the Youth for Climate Capacity platform on the dashboard. Doc is also there, so he's there to provide you answers, and hopefully we'll keep the engagement ongoing after this, going into next week and the subsequent sessions that we'll be having. Doc, thank you. Rudy, if you can hear me.
Thank you
Over
very
to
much,
you.
Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you so much, Dr. Elvis. This was fantastic. Your presentation was very, very helpful. The chat was super lively. I know people had so many questions. We were noting them down as well. And like Paul mentioned, we would also have all of this momentum go onto the discussion platform as well. So very quickly, in the interest of time, I've dropped a message in the chat with all the relevant links. We can now take all of this knowledge and the capacity that we have built and continue on our discussions on the platform. The discussion is now live. We're going to start off with building a pool of resources. Gaio has already kindly started one off of opportunities and resources, and we want to continue that. There are about 200 of us here at this session, and that's already so many minds put together and so many opportunities that can be added together. So please do go and engage on the platform. Just to let you know, if you haven't joined the group or the channel particularly, the link is on there. Please make sure you make an account and join the channel. If you have any troubles with the platform, reach out to us. And this is a space to engage with your peers and experts, and as well as, share resources. Second of all, we had some of you also mentioned, actually a lot of you mentioned that this is your second bootcamp. This is not the first time that you're seeing us. So we have completed the digest, which is the key lessons and outcomes and all the interesting things that you heard from the previous bootcamp, and put them all into a digest. That is now available. I have dropped a link in the chat for that as well, just to brush up what you learned. And for those of you that did not have the opportunity to join the first bootcamp, that's a space for you. And then finally, a lot of questions on the certificates. Just to clarify, all participants must finish the Becoming a Climate Champion e-course and hand in their completed certificate, both through uploading it or via email. That is super, super important. And then we double check that you have attended all workshops of the bootcamp. Once these two are done and are on our end, then we send out a certificate at the end of each bootcamp. If you have done all of this and not received it, then please reach out to us. If not, please do go ahead and complete all of these things. This is just some key information from my end, but like Paul mentioned, we will see all of you all, or most of you all at least, next week, same time. This is an opportunity for us to turn on our cameras and take a quick picture as well, because all of you took a good 1.5 and over 1.5 hours of your time today to join us and build capacities together with us. So we would love to get a picture. Doc, I still see your slides. If you could stop sharing, then we can get into gallery mode and take a couple of pictures. But my colleague Stephanie will help out. Biggest smiles, show all of your 32 or whatever number of teeth you have. Say Youth for Capacity, say Climate Catalyst Mentorship Program, say Climate Action, whatever you like. I will give Stephanie a couple of seconds while she goes through 9 pages of participants. This goes to show that we are very happy to be inculcating and sort of building this beautiful community of people. And I mean, our work doesn't end here, right? We're going to see you on the discussion platform, and we will see you next week as well. It's been a pleasure. And from the UN Climate Change, and big thank you to Gaio for kickstarting this funding bootcamp. I know everyone's enjoying this, and we have 2 more sessions to go, and finally a climate cafe.